Joe Biden's seventh executive action was to fortify DACA's status quo. DACA kids, so deferred action for child, whatever, I don't even remember. Anyways, people that were brought over here illegally across the border as children and are now residing here and have lived here. They're basically Americans. They deserve to have a path to citizenship behind the line of everyone who's currently applied. They should be given legal residency now. But what people need to understand is that this is kind of a feel-good executive action. I mean, not really, because it does keep those people from being deported. And unless they've committed some sort of crime, I don't believe they should be deported. But their fate is not actually, their fate has been frozen. Their fate is undecided, and Joe Biden has helped to freeze them in undecidedness. But the thing is, like, if you're under threat imminently, even after this administration, of potentially being deported, how settled into the United States are you going to get? How entrepreneurial or like business building are you going to get if you think you might have to leave in a couple of years because you're going to be deported? The 1.8 million people or so that are members of this DACA class, like, need to be given legal residency right now and need to be put on the path to citizenship. Adults who came here illegally need to be given legal residence immediately, but should not be given any path to citizenship because they broke our laws, even if it was for good reasons, even if they were escaping terrible places. There are better places than the United States, and there's people suffering in the United States. So it's not as cut and dry as people would like to make it. And those people should not be rewarded with citizenship because they didn't do it properly. But the kids, the DACA kids, it's no fault of their own. So, and everyone understands that. I want to go back to, so this is a great example of politics sucking at its highest level. In 2018, there was a huge debate about the DACA kids, and they were part of a bargaining sort of back and forth negotiation between Democrats and Republicans around some other piece of legislation. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I saw Ben Shapiro and Andrew Klavan and Rush Limbaugh all talk about how the Democrats were playing games with the DACA kids in order to achieve a certain end in this legislation, and that they were to fault for the delays in this legislation going forward. And then I saw Bill Maher and Trevor Noah and a couple other people that are kind of like left-wing, not traditional pundits, but left-wing thought leaders, and unfortunately, and they were saying the exact same thing, that the Republicans were delaying this DACA sort of situation in order to achieve the exact same end that Republicans were saying the Democrats were delaying it for. So, like, they were literally just saying that the other side was delaying things, I think, in order to achieve gridlock and keep this as a political weapon. Because it's any emotional issues are good to keep on the table because it keeps us emotional and distracted. So, we need to get this issue resolved. My only point in bringing that up is A, those political games, but B, Trump offered, and I don't know, the problem is Democrats didn't take him up on it. And so you can never know what he actually meant by it. But Trump literally, I think, offered at one point this DACA issue in and of itself, just to get it off the table and resolved so they can move on to other things. And they didn't even entertain that. I think they either believed he would not act in good faith, or they just said that in order to not solve the issue. Either way, Joe Biden's executive action does not solve anything. It just helps delay this issue from being resolved later. And so we need to have a conversation about this and get our legislators to get their frickin' gears in order, or whatever, get their butts going on this issue, get some movement happening, make some action happen. Because I don't think no one thinks that kids that were brought over here through no choice of their own deserve to be deported, or like that they're not essentially American having grown up here. Some people might say that it's hard to enforce and determine who actually can and cannot qualify under that. Like, when did they come here? Did they, because like if you're 35 now and you were allegedly 15 when this happened, well, what if you're actually 42 and you were actually 21 when this happened, but you lie about your age because there's no like concrete documentation, stuff like that. Those concerns are valid, but for the most part, we can find ways of getting around that. You would just have to have you would have to have people age them with their teeth or whatever, and then you'd have to have documented instances of them being in the country, pictures of them somewhere where they were doing something in the country, or, you know, some sort of way of validating that they were there, that they were in a school at age 15, you know, and that they have their, you know, if it was from Mexico, Mexican birth certificate saying that they were 15, and then, you know, there's ways of finding that evidence, and there would be some sort of procedure that would have to be put in place to figure that out. So those obstacles can be circumvented with the right person in charge of the legislation and the right executive branch executing it. Do I have faith that Joe Biden will bring this to fruition? No, I think that the unfortunate situation many Mexican Americans and illegal immigrants find themselves in is being allied with the Democrats because they think the Democrats are on their side, and the Democrats know that they can play that game, and so they keep the issue going, and they keep the issues perpetuating because it's politically advantageous for them. And I think some cold-hearted politicians really do operate that way. Some people, regular Democrats, are coming from a position of compassion, but I just don't think they've thought it through. Or they believe in some characterization of the right that is not a good representation of most people on the right, or at least, you know, 2/3 of people on the right.